I decided that today I'm not going to spend too much time doing one of my little, some people refer to them as rants, but I guess not every single one is a rant per se. I, sexy raspy voice here, I'm just getting over a fucking cold. Can you believe it? I went like 3 weeks ago, roughly, maybe longer. I went and I had my flu shot and my 8th COVID shot. Not regretting that whatsoever. I will, as long as science is kicking around, I will be getting these needles. But after I got those, I ended up with a massive cold. And it's so bizarre because every time of year, like this time of year, I should say, this time of year, every year, since we've moved back from Singapore, I always get a fucking cold. And it always ends up settling in my chest. And I have low-grade asthma. So it's funny how my asthma is not that bad, but then it settles. Then I cough and hack, and it's embarrassing, especially post-pandemic. Anyway, it's funny. I said I was going to go on for long, and then I keep rambling. I've learned recently that some apps, when you're listening to podcasts, that you can actually change the playback time. So you can have me sound like a chipmunk if you like. You can speed it up. I'm sure you don't want to slow it down, but just a little, little, maybe not bee in your bonnet, maybe a little feather in your cap. I don't know, whatever the story is about putting ideas in your head. And that goes with any podcast. If you want to speed it up a little bit, you can advance the time. Please don't ever forget that every podcast I have will have show notes. So you can just jump on and look at anything we talk about shopping wise or recommendations from some of my guests. I will always put it in the show notes. So I don't know. I guess I can just shut up now and we can move forward with today's episode. Please like, subscribe, share, give me stars, all the good stuffs. And if you have any suggestions, whether it be help to improve it or suggestions for guests, or maybe you like my voice like this and I should keep it like this at all times, you can feel free to send me an email, andrea.claire@hotmail.com. Happy to hear from you. Have a great day and enjoy today's podcast. Peace out, bitches. Welcome to the Fuck You 50s, the podcast for women who refuse to tolerate the bullshit anymore. This is real talk, real stories, and a long overdue reality check. I'm your host, Andrea Claire, and this podcast is the filter-free voice you've been waiting for, with a dose of F-bombs. The Fuck You 50s, unfiltered, unapologetic, and undeniably needed. My guest today isn't just a survivor. She's a strategic powerhouse who has successfully fought the status quo in business and health. She is the co-founder of the award-winning Caren West PR. For nearly 2 decades, she's been running creative campaigns for global heavyweights like Red Bull, the Recording Academy, and Gucci. And she's a former entertainment columnist for Atlanta's legendary 99X. When Caren speaks, the industry listens. But she's here today not just to talk about PR, but about real life resilience. She's diving into why authenticity is dying in the influencer age, how women in midlife are a force to be reckoned with, and her intensely personal battle against a healthcare system that tried to silence her. Almost literally. Get ready to hear why our chaos helps tell our story and why you need to stop pretending everything is perfect. Caren, welcome to the Fuck You 50s.
I didn't even realize that there was going to be a camera component, so hopefully I don't look like a crazy person.
And honestly, don't even worry about it. I also don't even have to use it. I do like little teasers
It's
on
totally fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your time, and I know you have a lot going on. So I just wanted to say, like when Chad sent me, I printed it off so I could read it because I loved his intro to you, and then he says, I could go on and on about Caren with graphs and charts, but I could never do her justice. And I also want to see those graphs and charts. And you guys have been business partners for how long now?
Our company turns 20 in December.
Wow. Yeah.
And we worked together
great.
before that, and we're friends before that. So
yeah. And it sounds like he's like your number one fan.
Depends on the day.
Also fair. Yes.
He's like, "You're not coming into the office? I don't understand." I was like, "We do this. It's a podcast interview. We can't be in a noisy office."
Well, it's and I obviously do this from my home, or maybe it's not obvious. I have
Mhm.
a backdrop behind me, but it's going to get noisy shortly because my 17-year-old daughter sent me a message asking if I could Uber her. First of all, she wanted me to bring her jeans because she forgot her jeans. I mean, she is wearing pants. She's she goes to an art school, so I think they had dance or something this morning. She does not want to wear her yoga pants all day, God forbid. And I think she stopped listening to my podcast, so I can go on and it's fine.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
You're like, you'll eventually want the yoga pants on all the time, so
yeah,
just wait.
exactly. That's definitely where I'm at now. But she's Ubering home to get her
Okay.
jeans, and we have 3 dogs, so chaos will ensue in like 2 minutes. So
It's life,
yeah,
right? It's, like,
exactly.
messy. That's how it works.
Yes, I feel like you've had such a great path of getting up to kind of where you are in PR. So I'm not sure if that's easy for you to round up, but and go.
Yeah, yeah. I really didn't know what I wanted to do in high school, and I always felt that it was really pressure on a teenager as far as when you really haven't had any life experience. And so, went to Auburn University, ended up getting a degree in communication and a minor in psychology. Had never heard of PR, never took a PR class, and really leaned more into television, radio, film, and that was always a huge interest of mine. Same thing with publishing, and was offered a job with Turner out of college. I did some internships with them. And then in the summer, I would work at this place called Weekapaug, the Weekapaug Inn. That was amazing, like total dirty dancing type vibe.
Okay.
And
Yeah. Did you
so
do
I was
some
like,
dirty dancing?
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I mean, not that cheesy, not like with like Patrick Swayze, but
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
did our fair share of partying as we did. I feel like the kids today are so boring. I'm like, God, live a little, you guys. Like,
Oh yeah.
stop with all the feelings, have some fun. Like,
Yeah.
do things you're gonna regret. Like, it's gonna be okay. Make mistakes.
Yes.
But during that time, I decided when I graduated, I was like, listen, I'm going to make a bunch of money before I start. My job's supposed to start in September. And then this will age me. And obviously, we're talking about age right now, but it was right when the time or the merger happened with Time Warner with Turner. And so it was like 2 weeks out. They're like, hi, by the way, there's a hiring freeze. And I was like, oh, that stinks. And she's like, that means you don't have a job. And I was like, oh, that really stinks.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I ended up totally hooking up with this guy at the time. And he lived in South Carolina. And he's like, come hang, out with me for a little bit. And we traveled for a second and then went to South Carolina. And I actually took advantage of USC's like career department. And I just started looking at all these jobs and like applying for jobs and like studying like how to do the best resume and questions and all of these things. And it ended up being a soul searching mission for me. And I came to this conclusion that I was trying to fit myself into a box or trying to find a career that was specifically for me.
Uh-huh.
And I ended up referring back to still, I think a fantastic resource is What Color is Your Parachute? That
Yes.
book.
I remember that. Yep.
Right. And so, and I just loved it because it reframed how I was thinking. And I really started looking at what my strengths were, everything from, I love to host events. I was really great at putting parties together. I did it, the entire, like in the summers, I was great at communication. I was a good writer, like all of these things. And so I ended up just making it my mission to talk and to network with as many people as I could. And I was really interested in music. I ended up meeting the president of a record label called Autonomous Records. And we were drinking margaritas in South Carolina randomly. He was based in Atlanta. And I said, hey, if you're ever looking for interns or you have any openings, let me know. Like, I love to hustle, blah, blah, blah. And he ended up calling me and was like, hey, the president of a label gives you his card and you don't call him. That kind of was my stepping stone to a certain degree of being like, okay, I really like this entertainment industry. Let me figure
Yeah.
out what jobs are in here. And I was doing radio promotions, which is awful and I hated it. I really just paid attention to what every role was. And every
Yep.
person I met, I used as an opportunity. And so if there was a way that I could get an experience when it came to working a festival or going to a show or meeting this person or doing whatever networking group, I did that. And I ended up like working for a booking agent. I ended up gravitating towards PR. It was just a natural fit for me. And that was really a light bulb in my head. Like, I get this. I can do this.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I understand what PR is.
All those industries too, they all kind of blend in together, right? I also
Yeah.
feel like what's a really lost art. I feel like our generation, maybe a little bit after us, there has been a switch in like the lack of networking abilities.
Yes. It's a huge topic of conversation. I'm sure you get it all the time because people literally don't know how to communicate
Yeah,
in person, answer the phone, write emails that are actually engaging. It's like you said, it's a lost art. Even though we're doing it all the time, we're posting on social, we're, putting our lives out for everybody to read. But what is our intention behind it? And are we doing it
yeah,
effectively? And
yeah,
kids today are just lost. We have people who come to us. We have a really fantastic internship program that we want people to walk away with experience so they can get a
yeah,
job. And we have people who are like, well, can I do PR remotely? I'm like, we're in lifestyle PR. We need to be in restaurants. We need to be in the photo pit at, festivals. We need to be able to walk into a crisis scene and handle it. If we have to jump on the camera, like we have to do it and all these things. And so
yeah.
it's a very interesting time for sure.
I still think there's opportunities for people to get out there and maybe
Mhm.
maybe they're stopped by fear, right? But
Mhm.
hey, like you just need to kind of bite the bullet and get out and I think too kind of what you've done like to create your career
Mhm.
is that you've tried so many different things, met so
Yep.
many different people and that just I guess I come from like similar with my industry, because I'm
Yeah.
hair and makeup artist by trade
Yeah.
and there used to be events. That's the other thing and I even feel
Mhm.
like not even just like post COVID. I feel like even before then, there wasn't as many events or networking opportunities. I don't know why. Can you clock that?
Yeah, I think it was really watered down for a long time, and I feel like it became, almost something you have to do, and there just wasn't any soul to networking, and I think a lot of times I think people have lost the art of hustle or, like you said, putting themselves out there, and
And being
it's like
authentic too, maybe?
yeah, and really also being willing to feel embarrassed, to feel uncomfortable. Everybody's worried about imposter syndrome. You just have to like dive in and sometimes it's going to work and sometimes it's not. But it's, I just see people who are so afraid to make a mistake or do anything that they're unwilling to meet somebody or they're more comfortable, behind their computer screen. But there's still opportunities. I mean, even digitally, to network. But it's interesting. We're seeing a shift where you're seeing a lot of influencers who, as they get older, are all of a sudden realizing that, are trying to launch, supper clubs, membership programs, in real life events, and all of these things in order to establish connection. So hopefully we'll come back. But it's consumer behavior has changed drastically
Yeah.
in our world. And yours too, like you said, even pre-COVID.
It's interesting too. I don't know if you noticed my eye roll when you mentioned the word influencer, but my Botox is kicking in, so maybe my eye roll. Don't notice that right now. But
I
I don't
love
mean to
it.
shit on influencers all the time, but obviously it's impacted my industry too, right?
It's really hard. I think it's, like a testament to your podcast and having honest conversations. I feel like a lot of people have stepped away from that, or maybe because of social media, they're afraid, once again, even though we know it's not the truth and even though we know it's a big bag of bullshit, a lot of
Yeah.
times we're comparing ourselves to other far
Yeah.
too much. And so having these conversations where it's like, okay, well, let's talk about being in our 50s or let's just have an honest conversation about what are you seeing in the world, I think is more important than ever right
Yeah.
now. And, there's so much noise. Everybody's trying to sell you something, everybody's trying to sell themselves. Everybody's trying to tell a story. Everybody's trying to be viral. Everybody's trying to do all this stuff. And
Yeah.
gosh, it's exhausting.
It is exhausting. And actually I just read yesterday somebody had posted just how there is now like menopause exhaustion, which I understand is kind of like coming from everywhere, right?
I think it's a really powerful conversation, an important conversation. And what I'm seeing, because with my peers or clients, or, we work with various ages and demographics, is that
Oh,
we all, same thing, are hustling and trying to put ourselves out there and we're at this really interesting and crazy and wonderful and awful stage of life at the same time. And we're having these, like, when we see somebody, it's almost like we're, a part of this club and being like,
Yeah.
bro, are you like having like crazy hot flashes? Like, what the fuck is going on? We just did an event with this incredible artist, Ashley Longshore, with one of our clients who's an incredible jeweler, and she's an amazing
Oh,
artist. Do you know who I'm talking about?
yeah. I saw, I think it was the necklaces that I kind of honed in on, I think it was on your
Oh,
Instagram
yeah.
account, but they're so cool.
Yeah, and she's just this larger than life artist, and she was there, and she was like, "I am just, like, having a hot flash," and I was like, "Well, thank God." So I ripped off my, blazer. She's, like, dressed to the nines in, like, some Oscar de la Renta, but we ended up putting a fan, like, in the office because we kept, like, having to go back there, and there's
Yeah.
these really real, physical and psychological things that are happening to our bodies that sometimes I think we need to talk about it. And I think that we need other people to know. And then also cutting through that noise where it's like we have all of these beauty products and supplements and people, spitting, whatever knowledge they think they know and they're so-called experts and it's all
Yeah.
contradicting and everything else. It's just sometimes having just somebody being like, what's going on in your world? Am I
Yeah.
like completely crazy right
Yeah.
now? You know?
Exactly. It's definitely hard to kind of filter through all of that. Like you say, there's so much misinformation out there. And from your perspective, like do
Mhm.
you have, and I don't know if you know, but
Sure.
from a PR background, is there a way that women can like filter through some of the PR spins?
I think it's
Yeah.
definitely research. I mean, my number one thing, I feel like everything is a PR spin. It's the world that we live in, and I think that because of what I do, it's like, we constantly see behind the curtain and what's going
Mm.
on. And, I can't watch a news story without thinking about, the 9 million pieces that have gone together to talk about that story and the whys behind it and the advertisers and the consumers and like all of
Yeah.
these things. But I think the number one thing is, especially if you're on social media, is that do your research because we do
Yeah.
have all these products coming through and, people, saying things like, I can't remember who it was. It was like, well, if you're not horny, you're not healthy. Well, I'm like, well, you try losing your libido and see how that feels. And so, like, don't say crazy stuff like that. But people are doing these
Yeah.
things that are like clickbait. And then I think people are also really think about like yourself, right? And I think sometimes I fall for it too, where it's like we're looking for solutions and we want something that's a quick
Yeah.
fix. There aren't quick fixes.
Yeah.
There just aren't. And so when it comes to these products and everything else, definitely look to people who are trusted, look to trusted brands. But a lot of people don't even realize that USG exists and that, these everyday people are getting paid to do stuff to talk about how great products are and the products could, really suck. So it really comes down to you for
Yeah.
sure.
I have to say, like, from my perspective as a hair and makeup artist, it's like I've seen influencers where they're like, I always use this example. It's like, this is my favorite mascara. And then the next day,
Uh-huh.
it's like a completely different brand. This is my favorite mascara. It's like, how
Yeah.
many favorite mascaras you can have? Like, there's no
Yeah.
authenticity, but
Mhm.
obviously influencers are getting paid for,
Mhm.
for what they're touting, which is unfortunate. I've had some opportunities to pitch to some brands because I'm now getting some conversation with my podcast where people want to consider doing advertising or sponsorship with it,
Yes, for sure.
which is great. I mean, I don't know how to navigate that because I also don't
Mhm.
know what to ask for
Mhm.
like the fee. It's also funny because some that are kind of like dipping their toe into the conversation, but that they also are not quite sure if they want to commit to a podcast that is for women that are in their 50s. I feel like there's all these opportunities where they want our money, but they still want to
Mhm.
silence us. I don't know if that's too conspiracy theory, but
I don't think it's a conspiracy theory. I think you're hitting the nail on the head in a lot of ways. I think that people it's not necessarily that they're trying to silence us. I think they don't know what to do with us. And I think that especially women who and I fully believe in like Gen X and listen, there's all kinds of variations of it, but how we were raised and all the things that we went through, I think as women we saw the world in a very specific way. A lot of us were latchkey kids, like all of these things. And so we, you know, paved our way. We see the world
yeah,
in a different way and we're not going to sit back and you have more women who like I don't have children. Chad has a son, but I was very deliberate in what I wanted to do with my life and my career and all of these things. And so all of a sudden you have these women being like, I'm not done yet. Like
yeah,
I have a whole entire, life in front of me. And we are a very incredible or a very powerful group. And we do have a lot of spending power. And I think brands like, like a J. Crew or even Zara, or you have, Annie McDowell, who's, L'Oreal and these brands who are telling you the why, or even Halle Berry and being
Yeah.
like, listen, I was going off the charts. I think those are people who are helping championing the story for women and really having these honest conversations because they're walking the walk. And it's
Yeah.
not just something that you're seeing, when you pick up your iPhone and you're like, okay, well, what facelift is this for
Yeah.
whatever celebrity?
Oh my
You
God.
have these women being like, listen, we are powerful bitches right now. I feel like that's really important. And I think that we're the people who are breaking through. And I always say for my team, I was like, bitches, you're lucky
Yeah.
because our crazy asses are
Yeah.
like going for it and we are
Yeah.
telling our story and we won't be silenced and we do have something to say. Don't tell me how I'm supposed to feel or what's going on with my body and my life. I'm looking for solutions, but I'm also past the point of I'm not going to be gaslit. I'm not going to be fooled by your
Yeah.
bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. And there's so many things that we've gone through, I'm sure personally
Mhm.
as well, that kind of also impacts kind of, what we're dealing with now in this age. Dad had mentioned,
Mhm.
and I don't know if you want to speak about it because I
Yeah.
don't, he was kind of vague about it, but he said that you had some health challenges a few
Yeah.
years ago that kind of pivoted for
Yeah.
you.
It really did. It's interesting because I think a lot of women and men, as we get older, we start to have health challenges. And um, I about 4 years ago, I almost died. And prior to that, I like before COVID and everything else, I just really was struggling with constantly being sick. I was fatigued. I was run down. I remember, doctor, he's like, well, you just may be, perimenopausal. And I was like, I don't even know what the fuck that means. So
Yeah.
like, what does that do? And he's like, well, that's just going to suck for you,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of
You're just a
conversations like,
girl.
yeah. And it's like, so for a while anyway, I wasn't, feeling well and I was having a series of pains in my side and all of these things. So got ultrasounds and then COVID happened and appointments are virtual and, I was nonstop sinus infections and all this stuff. And I got to the point where I felt like I was dying. I really did. And I was, lifestyle choices were bad. I'm in the entertainment industry, I'm constantly out and about. I'm drinking and things on top of not feeling well, being like, well, I've got to get through this event. So let
Yeah.
me power through with, a vodka or, beer or whatever it may be. Just putting the Band-Aid on anything was happening because from a health perspective, I was getting gaslit like
Right.
for years. I was jaundiced. My hair was falling out. I
Oh,
just,
wow.
literally was at my wit's end. And I just made an appointment at urgent care and walked in and I said, everybody's telling me I'm fine. I'm not fine. I feel like I'm dying. I know I'm sick. Here's how I'm feeling. Help me. And it was just
Yeah.
this doctor who would be working at urgent care. I said, I just need to know if I need to go to the ER. And he was like, you don't look well. He took a bunch of blood tests, et cetera, et cetera. It was Memorial Day weekend and he called me and he said, you need to go to the ER. And this is what I want you to say. And he said, your levels are all over the place. It looks like you have bacteria infections, everything else. And
Oh,
my body
wow.
was just in the process of shutting down. And it was funny when I got there, I mean, I literally, I was like, I feel like I could die. It was terrifying. Like, I was like, listen, this is what's been happening. This is what the doctor told me to tell you. And then finally they were like, something's really wrong with her. And they checked me in and I came out 2 weeks later. And so it was like
Wow.
peeling back the layers of the onion. And I had all of the stuff that was wrong with my GI system. Finally, they did an MRI. They found a huge mass on my liver. They thought I was going to have
Oh
a
my God.
liver transplant and all of these different things. But for me, I had a 50-50 shot. And for me, as soon as I was validated,
Yeah.
it like, I stopped feeling like I was crazy and being like, I told you I was sick, like to
Yeah.
everybody. Like I was so,
Yeah.
like relieved that all of a sudden we figured out that they're like, there's a lot of stuff that's going wrong with your body, but there's a place to start,
Yeah.
and that's just what happened. It was a long road to recovery. I mean, my legs and arms atrophied. I had to learn how to walk
Oh my
again. I had all of
God.
these different, like the fatigue, like the mental fog and like all of these things. But it gave me a new outlook on life. And it really was, I fully believe that it was a second chance and that I had stepped away from a lot of the things that were important to me and listening to my gut, believing in my power, believing in my worth. And I was letting everybody else come first, which we often
Mhm.
do in general,
Yeah.
but especially in PR. And I made the decision at the time and I was like, no more. I'm not going to do this anymore. And it was like my health, my wellness, everything comes first because we can't have a company. I can't be your friend. I can't, be your daughter. I can't do these things if I'm dead. But it's really shaped my outlook as far as how I move forward in who I want to work with, why I want to work with them, and who I want to associate with, and why it's important to have conversations like these. But it certainly changed my life. And what I did find in the process is that there's a lot of women like me who've been gaslit over and over and over again and are frustrated and tired and are asking the right questions, and
Yeah.
we're not being given solutions, and we're not being listened to. And I hope that those things truly can change.
Yeah, for sure. So did you have a specific diagnosis then, or?
I did not. It was multiple things that were going on with my body, and everything from lifestyle, from stress, not sleeping, poor diet because I'm eating randomly, like
Yeah.
at my desk or at a restaurant, to, lifestyle choices like drinking, things like that, where, I was sick and I was doing these things and pushing on through. Let me just push on through. Let me just push on
Yeah.
through. Let me just push on
Yeah.
through, where it almost cost me my life. And now it's more of like monitoring, the mass that was on my liver, like monitoring that mass. I didn't have to get a liver transplant. My MELD
Yeah.
scores are great. But I really still struggle. I work all the time. It's our business. It's in my DNA.
Yeah.
Hard to say no, and all of those things I have to remind myself. But truly, we're still navigating it, and I still have to go in and advocate for myself, and like being like, okay, why did I just gain 15 pounds?
Yeah.
Like, what? And they're like, well, are you walking? And I'm like, yeah, I'm walking. And yeah, I'm eating the right things. And yeah, I'm like having my, protein and all this stuff, but my body is out of whack. I need to, talk to me about hormones, talk to me what's going on with my testosterone and all these things. And it's incredibly frustrating that it is that layered. But I hope with my journey that I can continue to help other people who are in that same place, or, every cancer treatment is different, and every, random stuff that's going on. I have friends who have stuff
Yeah.
that are sick and have no idea what it is.
I've had so many like health issues that are like kind of crazy, but nothing that I would say that has been life threatening. Like I've had to have my hips replaced
Really?
because of like when we lived in Singapore, I got a mosquito illness that attacked my joints and blah, blah, blah.
Wait,
But one of,
they were like, I think you may have had Lyme disease
oh,
too. And
yeah,
so like testing me, they're like, but we probably can't test for it. Right. So you're like, I got bit by a mosquito and now I have to have a hip replacement. But yeah,
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
bananas, right?
Yeah, it's so crazy. So in Singapore, I saw one gynecologist who said because of my, and I'm trying to remember how old, I mean, I'm 54 now, so this is like,
Hmm.
I can't remember how many years ago, maybe 7 years ago, I think, roughly. Anyway, she said I should get an IUD. So she recommended a Marina, and so I was like, sure, fine, like whatever. And then she said to me that sometimes when women get the Marina, there's an adjustment period where you literally bleed forever. But she said, whatever. Anyway, so
Great.
so to
Can't
summarize.
wait for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it was so funny because we were living in Singapore and we were coming home every summer. And so I literally was coming home. She inserted it. After she inserted it, she told me that I could bleed for a long period of time. I'm like, could you not have waited till I came home after being in Canada for
Yeah.
2 months? Like it was crazy. But then of course, and she said, not everyone has that. So don't worry. Of course I have that. I start
Right.
bleeding like crazy, like so heavy. It just won't stop. I came back home, or sorry, back to Singapore. I guess that was my home at the time. Went to see her, and then she said, "Oh, so this like 2, 3 months later, she was like, oh, well, just wait it out. Like it should stop. Like, and I'm not even kidding. Like I was probably not bleeding for about 3 days out of the month, right? So I was showing that I was anemic. I was just like it was crazy. Like the blood loss was fucking insane, and at one point I said to her, like, you need to take it out or I'm going to take it out myself.
Yeah.
And then she was like, no, like, that's the best thing for you. I'm like, I don't know how this is the best thing for me. Then I went to see another gynecologist who actually delivered my youngest daughter. And he said to me, in Singapore, all the gynecologists have ultrasound in their offices, and so he did an ultrasound, and he was like, "Oh, he's like everything looks fine." He said, "I just think this is your new normal," and I'm like, how can this be my new normal? Like I literally didn't bleed like this before I had the IUD. Anyway, then I go see
Yeah.
another gynecologist who
Right.
was referred to me by my GP, who's not that it matters, but she was Canadian. Um, I think she had studied with Jen Gunter or something as well. She says, "Well, there's the problem. Whoever put in your IUD, they put it too close to your fallopian tube, so it's irritating your fallopian tube, and that's why you're bleeding all the time." So she was like,
Right.
"I
Like,
can fix it." Yeah, she's like, "I'll take it out, put a new one in," and I never had any issue.
yeah, I mean, it's so crazy. It's like, I got a lot of, you just like need a good vacation. Or you know what? Maybe like you should change your job or what. I'm like, there's like legitimately something wrong with me.
Yeah.
I know that I'm sick. Like, I don't think I need a nap or like a snuggle or, you know what I mean?
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh. It's just so funny. I don't need a nap. Yeah. Fuck.
I am throwing up every time I eat. Like, I feel like these are alarming, but the same thing of being like, this is your new normal. I just refuse to accept that. I just
Yeah.
absolutely refuse to accept that. And I think that going back to what we talked about and talking about, people trying to silence this, I think you're right in a certain perspective is that we're like, no, 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 no. You can't like keep telling me this story or
Yeah.
having like so many men tell you that, being dismissive about it, especially in the medical field. And it's really often insulting to me when I am having, a conversation with a doctor and he's trying to talk to me about, menopause or premenopause. But I'm just like, you don't know and you're not listening and you're trying to brush me off to the next thing. I think that there's really real things that are going on that are often ignored and end up
Yeah.
creating bigger problems.
Yeah. This is why I guess again, two things. I no
Mhm.
longer want to see a male doctor because I've had more kind of bad experiences with male doctors
Mhm.
than I have had, so I would also like I do try to find women that are doctors that are
Mhm.
45 and up because I feel like
Mhm.
they're gonna
It's a
understand what
shared
I'm
experience.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um and then the other thing that I was gonna say, which is gone now because I do this
Because
all the time.
I
I'm like, I had this other thought. I don't know what the fuck it was. It's gone.
sometimes I was like, you need to take a breath and pause. I don't care anymore. Like, I
Yeah.
just don't care. This is it. This is
Yeah.
what you get.
I remember what I was going to say too. So I was going to say that the one thing that I love how my podcast is kind of naturally kind of morphed into, it's like I have all these conversations with women that have stories that are relatable to other women, right? And
Mhm.
maybe not exact a carbon copy, but someone's going to listen to your story and maybe they're going through something similar or something that
Mhm.
parallels and they're going to be like, I fucking need to do this or ask for that or,
Yeah.
whatever. And that's why I just love when people are sharing their stories.
I
So
think
thank
something
you for
that
that.
you've tapped on quite a bit in your podcast is the fact that often, and I think some of this comes with sickness and everything else, because we are being dismissed, and and women worry about being invisible, and I think a lot of that is because of the healthcare industry, and obviously like things are shifting as far as the media market and et cetera. But I think that it's really scary. And I know I love my 50s. So far, I turned 51 in April. I can remember my birthday. That's scary. I was like, what month is it? But anyway, in my 40s, I really struggled. And I think part of it, I was, having health issues, but all of a sudden I was in a place in my career where I didn't really know if I wanted to do it anymore
Mhm.
or at the capacity I did. I was feeling burnt out. And because I was sick, it was making it worse. And I was feeling very beat up by clients or, that I wasn't being heard or people weren't listening. And I really, really struggled with it. And I think a lot of women in their 40s and their 50s and their 60s often are looking to what their identity is now or what they want to do after
Yeah.
all of a sudden we realize, okay, well, we've, gone through our 20s, 30s, and obviously, parenting and all of these things, but being like, well, now I'm kind of on the other side of this. And I thought I would have time to do all of these things, but now I don't have that time. So
Yeah.
what does that look like now? And just, um, when we're kind of in the society or world where everybody's so obsessed with beauty, and then with now, Ozempic and GLP-1s and
Oh
like all of these
gosh.
things
Yeah.
where all of a sudden there's this really, really focus on outer
Yeah.
beauty and what you look like, and that
Yeah.
being, continue being associated with your
And
worth.
it's such a
But
mind fuck too. That's why
it's a mind
again with the
fuck. Yeah.
yeah, with social media, it's like I have to like for me, I feel like not only do I think I'm a bit vain because of the industry I'm in, but I'm also
Hmm.
extremely self-critical
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's hard to kind of shut those voices down for
Hmm.
sure. And then I've seen some experts where you know women that are voices kind of the Gen X other voices out there which are
Hmm.
great, and some of them have really great messaging, but then I can see the fucking filters on, like, as they're talking, I can tell that they have a filter on,
Yeah.
and they're talking about body image and I just
Hmm.
kind of think like, and not that, hey, everyone needs to do whatever they're comfortable
Hmm.
with, but I won't filter anything. Honestly, sometimes I really want to. I'll be like, oh my God, I look like total shit, but I can't.
Oh, I know. I know. I know. I know. What something that I do, and it was, I can't remember. I think my sister may have said this. But going back and like we have a photo frame and, a digital frame in our office, and we have one in our house. And, I look at all these pictures from, like I said, our business is turning 20 in December, from when I started, and, I'm 110 pounds and like was on the radio and like, was on a reality show and like just didn't give a fuck. And I was like, I'm going to try everything. I'm going to do everything,
Yeah.
and all these things. And I remember looking at those pictures and being like, I thought I was fat. I thought I was ugly. I thought my hair looked stupid, whatever. And going back and being like, what a beautiful young woman I
Yeah.
was. And I wish
Oh my
I
God.
would have all that noise.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and I tell my team, 20 somethings, I'm like, listen, I'm going to just tell you this. You're so hard on yourselves. Just don't, it's not worth it. The amount of time that you waste on it, because you're eventually going to look back and look at yourself and feel like, wow, I didn't realize how beautiful I was or how good
Yeah.
I looked at that event
Oh
or
my
whatever
God,
it may be. And
you've totally 100% like hit a chord with me for sure. I was on a makeover show years ago here in
Mhm.
Canada, and I got called into the editing suite because, and at that time I already had two children, and they literally had a freeze frame of me with the camera low angle circling my stomach, telling me that I need to take care of that. And I was like, it's a fucking makeover show that's supposed to be positivity for women.
Like
And
body
I've had two
positivity, right?
children. And at the time, of course, like you're saying, it's like I thought
Yeah.
I looked awful. I thought I was fat. I thought I was like whatever.
Mhm.
And then now that I'm older and obviously, different size than I was when I was on the
Mhm.
TV show, I sometimes think of things that people have said to me over the years,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
think they said this to me then. What the fuck do they think about me now?
Yeah.
And this is
Yeah.
also that mind fuck of it's just like it's so upsetting and for myself, I'm sure. And like you say, you look back at photos
Yeah.
of yourself too. Like I have photos of myself from things that I wore that I remember wearing the outfit
Yeah.
once, seeing the picture going, oh my God, I look like shit, throwing out the outfit. And then now I look back at it and I think like, what the fuck? Why did I looked great. What was I thinking?
I it's crazy, and I catch myself doing it still to this day. And once again, we're in much more visual society with social media and everything else. And, you know, eh, I try to silence that voice as much as possible, but it's impossible. Then you have somebody like, Chris Jenner, who comes along with like the facelift of the century, who it's like, once again, 20 somethings are like, well, I guess I need to start saving for a facelift. I'm like, you're 25.
Yeah.
You look amazing. And so I think that we still wrestle when you're like, okay, well, this person is 50 or this person is 60, where you do have somebody with great genes, or you do have somebody who's getting tweaks all over the place, or, or
Yeah.
comfortable talking about their facelift. And it's still really hard not to be like, oh, well, let me look when I'm having a Zoom and my jowls are like coming out at
Yeah,
me.
I
Right.
always do
And you're
this to my
like,
husband. Like,
yeah,
I'm like, honey, I'm pulling on my cheeks, pulling my neck. Like, what do you think? And
yeah,
he's always like shaking his head and telling me to shut up. But I mean, partly I do it for his reaction because I'm just being funny. And
but
this is also why for me personally, whenever I'm posting anything, and not that I have a
mhm,
big voice, but whenever I'm posting anything of myself, as much as it kills me to not filter it, I won't filter it because I just feel like it's that messaging. And hey,
I
to the
agree.
women that
Yeah,
need to do that want to have the facelift,
Mhm.
like that's them. And, but
Mhm.
again, it's having to shut down all
Yeah.
those outer voices.
I was gonna say, I'm not a hater at all. I'm like, "Listen, yeah, I'm sure if I had all the money in the world, I'd be like, but at the same time, there's this really, I think, powerful thing that I've gone through, and I think a lot of women our age go through too, where it's like you do have this sense of like, maybe I care for a minute, and then I'm like, I just don't have time to care right now.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? I've got cellulite. I don't give a shit. I'm
Yeah.
getting in the pool. I'm gonna have the best time ever, and just realizing that those things aren't, as important
Yeah.
as they were. I certainly still have my moments, but um, the struggle is real, I guess,
Yeah.
when it comes to body image at any age, but especially in our 50s when, once again, we're in a society that values a lot of what we do based off of how you look.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I guess it's just like an endless circle of conversation, but it's also like with people doing Ozempic now too, which
Mhm.
again, it's up to them, whatever makes
Mhm.
them feel good. Some
Yeah.
people need it, and some people need it, and some people want it, right? So there's
Mhm.
always a difference
Right.
between need and want, and not everyone is aware. And again, like your personal
Right.
business, like if you're like using Ozempic, nobody
Mhm.
has to know. Like that's a you personal thing, right? But it is interesting how so many people, celebrities and not, that are doing it. And then again, if like it just kind of ups that, like, I mean, I hate to use the word competition, but
Before we were going through this whole thing of like accept your body, like who you are, and there was that whole, as far as advertising, marketing, PR, everything centered around that, right? Like that was the it group, like to go after as far as like
yeah,
embracing this. And then all of a sudden, like when it started to catch on as far as like Ozempic, GLP-1s, and people are like, hey, there's this drug that's going to get me to where I need to be.
yeah,
Well, yeah, like getting on the bandwagon, and all of a sudden a lot of that conversation just went away because those voices that were out there saying, well, I'm okay in my skin, celebrities and otherwise saying, well, actually I wasn't okay in my skin. And
yeah,
that's okay to have that conversation too. I feel like there's a lot of value and worth in that. But we're just at I feel like the starting point with this,
hmm,
and a lot will come out of it. And I think it's important that we have honest conversations, and I think more people are willing to step up and do that now. I feel like the stigma is coming down a little bit
yeah,
as we continue to learn about it. Or you do have these doctors who are saying, you know what, for women who are in their 40s and 50s who may be struggling, maybe microdosing with a GLP-1, et cetera, could be beneficial. But once again, it comes down to who do you believe, who do you not believe, what research is out there,
yeah.
and in finding the right partners and people to talk to, because it's I think it's really hard to decipher what's going to be, what's going to work for you and what's not going to work for you.
Oh, it's interesting. I had I had a tummy tuck and liposuction when I was in Singapore. Initially was to tighten up the diastasis recti, which is that, like, they call it the mummy hernia, where your muscle wall
Mhm.
splits after
Oh
having
yeah.
kids, right? And so it was a bit of that. Of course, when I went to the surgeon, then he said, "Well, you don't want to do that. You don't want to only fix that. You should get liposuction too, because it all kind of goes in together." And I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but of course I did
Mhm.
it, and gosh, like
Yeah.
I looked great, like I look back at
Yeah.
those photos and I'm like, God, I look great. But again, it's like this mind fuck. I know Jamie Lee Curtis talks about it. She talks about like
Yeah.
the
I love
surgeries and
her.
stuff that she did. Yeah, I love her too.
Mhm.
And I can't quote her because I just remember her talking about it and just how she wishes that she never did that. And in some way, like sometimes I wish that I didn't do that, because
Mhm.
like we're not taught to like embrace ourselves and the change that we
Yeah.
go through. And like having 3 children, of course your body's going to fucking change. That's just,
Yeah.
and everybody is different, like I sometimes say,
Well,
to people, it's like there are people in the media, like celebrities, where their job is to look good. So of course,
mhm.
if my job is to look good, I'm going to fucking
Mhm.
look good,
Oh
but
yeah.
that's not my job.
Yeah. I'm on the same page. I think that somebody else who was talking about it, oh God, it was Jamie Lee Curtis, Jane Fonda
Oh
was
yeah.
talking about how she wished she hadn't done, I think, so much stuff to her face. And it's like you don't know, right? Like once again, especially in that field, I can't even imagine as far as being an actor or actress today. The pressure. That's why they're all getting facelifts and all look amazing.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
And
like,
she, it can be a lot, I think, for something for me that has been a big challenge. And especially when I was sick, I've had COVID 3 times, but I got sick very, very early on. And, they were blaming a lot of stuff that was going on to me on, potentially COVID or long
Mhm.
COVID. And I was like, there's no way, I was like, we're still in the thick of it.
Yeah.
But really the brain fog and stuff that also happens as, we're in our 50s is really scary. And
Mhm.
I think that has been one of the most challenging things for me, when not being able to think correctly, or lose words or whatever, what have you. And when you're trying to be professional or sell a product or pitch somebody or just exist, I think that was very, it still is really, really hard and a really big challenge. And I think it's something that, you know, needs to be spoken about a little bit more too, as we all of a sudden are legitimizing the fact that we are going through menopause and that we have these
Yeah.
really real things going on in conjunction with what's just happening as far as society and life
Yeah.
and jobs. I know, I'm a caregiver to a certain degree. I was to my mom, who recently passed away, and how there's no field guide for that. I feel like uh, we're really unprepared for that. I was completely unprepared for, all of a sudden my parents are in their 80s, and I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, I didn't realize I was going to have to take care of you to a certain degree and be as
Yeah.
helpful. Of course, happy to do it and step into that role, but there's also real caregiver fatigue. You're parenting, you're doing all of these things. And I think that we're in a world, especially with the world that I live in as far as PR, where we're all trying to pretend like everything's okay, your life is okay. You're looking at your
Mhm.
friends like perfect family, and then you realize
Yep.
that there's, they're going through a divorce, whoever, Ruby, and, whatever, she was starving her kids, and like all of these things, like all of these stories are happening. Nothing is really real. So I think it's an interesting time that we're living in. And, I think because we were Gen X, one of the last, generations where we saw like MTV come to life and like,
Yeah.
the internet come about and all these things. I think that we have this very valuable perspective as far as what's going on in the world. And I think that more so than ever, people need to listen to women and women our age.
Yeah. I agree 100%. I feel like we have so much to offer, and just
Mhm,
like wisdom and experience, and
mhm.
I mean, maybe I don't have wisdom, but I have experience.
Well, I think that we have wisdom in our journey, no matter what that
Yeah.
is. And I know that, it's a lot of people tend to pivot our age, or maybe they're going back into the workforce and all of these things. And I think that our chaos and, we've talked about, I didn't take a linear career because I didn't even know what that looked like, is that
Mhm.
putting all these pieces of us together from when you're a kid or career wise, or maybe, you have a side hustle or whatever it may be, all of these little paths. And I'll go back to like, what color is your parachute? All of, like, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, help tell the story. And like all of a sudden
Yeah.
putting that together at this age and being like, how can I put all of these things together to create whatever this next chapter is going to be in my life? Sometimes it's just your outlook of how you're going to reframe how you're working, or how you're going to approach certain projects, or for us, how what does PR look like for us? What does our company look like for us? What kind of brands do we want to be involved with that represent who we are and where we are today?
And maybe you can pick and choose a bit more then too, right? Like
Yeah,
you're probably at
yeah.
a place for that, but then also you're
Mhm,
like, I don't know if the priority shift is the right word, but it's just
mhm.
where, like not tolerating any of the bullshit anymore. So if
Yeah,
it's like people that give you a hard time, hard to work with,
yeah.
demanding where I mean, I feel like
Mhm.
our industries allow for a bit of people being demanding, because I think you could be slightly
Very
demanding
much.
without
Yeah,
being an asshole. But then there's the ones that are just assholes where you just kind of like, like there's a couple directors,
yeah,
like I don't love doing TV commercials, to be honest. I do work on them, they pay me money. So,
yeah. I mean, listen,
yeah,
gotta make the money. That's the whole
yeah,
thing. You gotta have a
yeah.
living. Yeah,
Exactly. But I've worked with some TV like commercial directors that are just jackasses. And it's
yeah.
like I understand that you're in charge and that we're here to kind of get your project brought
Mhm.
to life, but you don't need to shit on me. And so if you're going to shit on me,
Right.
I've worked with directors, and then right away I message my agency and I'm like, if they call me again, it's a no.
But it's like, and you don't know until you know, until you get
Yeah.
into that experience, like in that relationship with that person, the client, the brand, or, the same thing. And you show up and you're like, I don't have anything to prove to
Yeah.
anybody anymore. I know what I'm doing. I'm an expert for a reason. And it's, we still have these conversations. I'm curious. I still always have something to learn and anything else. But, it's really easy to be nice to somebody. It's really easy to be helpful. It's really easy to be a big and better person and
Yeah.
to take the high road and, to have empathy. And I think a lot of those things are lacking. And I think because fortunately how I was brought up and my life experiences that were very messy, I think it really shaped me being okay with being messy and learning from that and learning from failure and figuring out how to get up and realizing that, especially after when I started to get well, how much I let other people impact my health and my psyche and all of those things. And that really comes down to the choice of how I respond now. And I
Yeah.
don't know, had I not gotten sick and really reevaluated what was important to me and priorities and taking the time to reflect that I could be dead or I could be in a very different place.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
people are texting me. I'm like, don't text me. Listen, I shut off my messages. No texty.
Well, just before we started our conversation, like I was saying, my daughter kept texting me about her
Yeah.
jeans that she needed. I had it on Do Not Disturb, so I have it so my kids can text through when it's Do Not
Same
Disturb.
thing. It's my staff. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just like, can you stop? Just like come home, get your jeans if you need to, like whatever.
Get the jeans. Get the jeans. Meanwhile, I
Oh my,
just did a purge and I was like, I've got to get it. I have like 20 pairs of jeans or something. And I was like
yeah,
trying on the jeans and I was like, this is torture. What the
yeah.
hell is
Oh my
happening?
God.
Oh
Especially
my God.
jeans. I find jeans, it's like once you find a good pair that works, but
Yeah.
sometimes you have to go through like so many just to find the one. It's kind
Yeah.
of like men.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
I did a purge in my closet not that long ago, and I also had like a lot of clothes still from Singapore because we just moved back to Canada in 22. So a lot of it was like
Oh,
resort
wow.
wear. So it's like
Yeah.
I'm not like walking around like Toronto in my resort wear, like my
Don't
flowy
you want
dresses
to
and stuff.
though?
Yeah, we would also go to some like galas in Singapore. So I have
Yeah.
some gowns that like fuck, like what am I going to use a gown for?
I know. Yes, I am going through that as I'm doing like small purges, whatever
Yeah,
I can, and letting go.
yeah,
I'm like, that is literally 20 years old. What?
yeah.
I'm never going to wear that.
But you know what? I have gotten, I'm sure you've done the same thing. I've gotten rid of
Mhm.
stuff from my closet where I'm like, oh,
Yes.
this is like, it's so old, like forget it. And then something will trigger. I'll see a picture or I'll be like, why
Mhm.
did I get rid of that? I have a pair of their Stella McCartney. It was a Adidas where they're knee high shoes. They're flat ballet flats that from the ankle up to the knee are
Yeah.
like knitwear. So it's almost like leg warmers that are anyway. I never got rid of them because they were such a good price, but they're also one size too small for me. And now, just recently, my 17-year-old was like, "Can I look at some of your footwear in your closet?" I'm like, "Yeah, go ahead." She comes out with those. Can I have these? I'm like, "Yes, you can." And this is why.
There you go. You're like, yes. I'm so glad I hung on to those. I
Yeah,
know.
good.
You go.
I do still have a banana clip from the 80s that's authentic.
Oh my God, I appreciate that. Listen, the banana clip. You're like, oh my God, my ponytail is so full. My ponytail is so full.
Yeah,
Look at
yeah.
it.
Oh, and it also gives you a nice facelift, those banana clips,
Yeah.
you know?
It did. It did. They really like worked it.
Oh my God.
Oh
Maybe,
my
yeah,
God.
that, you know what?
Oh,
That's like a poor lady's facelift, just a banana clip. I'll start rocking that.
yeah. Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. I feel like we didn't really talk about I don't even know anything of importance, but I feel like this conversation is
Great. I feel like we've had such a great conversation. And maybe just to kind of tie it back, just from your expertise, there's so many women that are in our age group that are starting their, own businesses or creative
Mhm.
projects, whatever. Do you have any like messaging or top three things that one would need to do just to kind of get their brands going?
I think this is for any age is just do it and just essentially start and dive in. We get caught in a trap where we're asking for validation from other people. And I think that at this age, you have the opportunity to leverage all your years of experience, whether that's life, career, whether it's both. And that you can use it to your advantage. Tap into what makes your own brand, and think of yourself as a brand, and think about how you want to talk about yourself. And while the word authenticity is overused, I think that it's important to be exactly who you are and not always
Yeah.
get caught up in, am I doing it, the right way? What should I be doing? I think that at 50 or in our 50s, we also have the opportunity to take advantage of our networks.
Yep.
And we don't always do that. I think that, we're afraid maybe to tell people what is actually happening in our life, or maybe we're thinking about pivoting or whatever. And we need to step away and actually do things that are action, as
Yep.
opposed to just words or thoughts or getting stuck in our head. And that's when life
Yeah.
happens, right?
Yeah.
And
For sure.
and that's where you find support, and that's where you realize maybe, "Hey, you know what? I'm actually hiring right now. I would love your help," and,
Yeah.
things come
That's great
together.
advice. Even back to the earlier conversation about like the whole like networking, like just get a bunch of friends together and like go for coffee, go for a cocktail if you're
Yeah.
drinking or, whatever. And just have your friends invite other friends. So it becomes like this whole,
Yeah.
like, you could bounce ideas off of other people, I would think as well.
I think one of the great things, especially with women, is that I think we are natural communicators, and, we're great at multitasking and all these different things. And I think that there's a lot of power in these conversations that we're having, like we are with menopause, and turning that also about, "L- let me ask for help," or "let's talk about, career," or "let's have a conversation," or "who do you know?" And these are really simple questions that often you'll be surprised that people are willing to help, or, are willing to connect you, or if you do take that chance, like, what do you have to lose? Like,
Yeah.
if somebody says no to coffee, who gives a shit? I was excited about this because, one, like I said, anybody who says fuck as much as I do, like, is a media friend. And I try to stop. I can't. It's
Yeah.
like trying not to talk like a valley girl, and people being like, well, if you talk this way,
Yeah.
I think you talked about it on one of your podcasts.
Yeah.
Like, and then here's something to take away. Everybody's saying that if you have to do something a certain way is full of shit. Be yourself. That's it. And it's like, my whole business is based off the fact that we built something off of how we thought things should be done, and trying to solve problems that were out there, to forecasting what we thought future would look like with social media and things like that. But ultimately, this is I've never changed this. This is what you get. I'm, of course, learning, and have made a zillion mistakes, and have said things that I shouldn't say, and have fucked up 900 ways. But at the same time, it was very important to me to look at what I valued, even coming down to what type of environment that I wanted to create with Caren West PR, what kind of people that I wanted to employ, what I
Right.
wanted to, do for them, as far as being like, we have unlimited days off, within reason, and being like, life just happens sometimes, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to penalize you for it. Like, life is, doesn't fall in between a nice little window. And so we created all these things like a wellness budget, or things that I wish I had,
Yeah.
when I was, working for other people. And I think that ultimately, me being by myself, I'm sure there's a zillion people out there who just can't stand me and don't like me. But there's a lot of people who really took a chance on me because I was willing to stand up for myself and do things in a different way. And that same passion that I had for building my company, I applied to our clients and
Yeah.
our brands and people, places, things that I believe in, who aren't even our clients. And I think because I'm real across the board with who I am, and um have humility in that, and grateful for the blessings, but also work my ass off. I work very hard, and I've worked for everything that we've earned, that is a success in itself. And that's what people need to do. And being okay to be different from all the bullshit that you see on social media. Who wants to look like everybody else? Who wants
Yeah.
to be
It's
like
true.
everybody else?
Yeah.
Put that Stanley Cup down, because, man, girls, by the way, if you think that smoking was bad, just think of what sucking out of that straw all day long is going to do. You're going to
Yeah.
get these lines. I'm
Yeah.
telling you.
They're not good.
Like,
As I grab
listen,
my face and pull it back again. Oh, where the
yeah.
fuck is my banana clip? I feel like I'm the same way. I am who I
Uh-huh.
am. I haven't, I don't think I've really changed. I've grown for sure. Just like you, I've made mistakes. Probably said things that I
Mhm.
shouldn't have. I probably will continue to fuck up here and there, but I'm glad that I allow myself the space to fuck up
Well, and you also were doing things like this podcast. I think when, talking about, giving women inspiration or the courage to take the next step, sometimes it's just doing it. And if it
Yeah.
falls flat, if something you try just doesn't work, that's okay. Just try
Yeah.
something else. It's not,
Yeah.
it's not the end of the world. And at this point in our lives, we should know that, I'm excited to see what the next adventure brings, whatever that may be, and whether it's what happens at CWPR at 20 or if we blow the whole thing up and move to an island somewhere and, rescue weird fish, then do that 100% too, but I think that that's
Exactly.
what's exciting about life and realizing that today more than ever, there's the opportunity to really figure out what you like and what brings you joy.
Yeah.
I'm still
It's like
figuring it out.
take that leap of faith in yourself and just jump.
That's honestly, that was one of the biggest pieces of advice that I was given when I wanted to go out on my own. I think it's important that we listen to each other and it's, once again, be nice, all the
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Be
I love
nice,
that.
everybody. Just be cool.
Be cool, bitches. Thanks for tuning in to the Fuck You 50s. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to follow and rate the podcast. And we would love to connect with you on Instagram. So be sure to follow us at the Fuck You 50s. The Fuck You 50s is hosted by Andrea Claire. See you next time.